remember being like, God, this is what real estate's all about, huh? 650 deals later, it never happened again. I waited 8 years and 650 flips later to like start some sort of education, which I started a couple years ago. And I mean, the space has just gotten more and more and more and more and more crowded because of like what you said. Like, then somebody flips one house and they're like, you can't tell from an ad. The ad says the same thing. We'll help you invest in real estate. A guy who's done one deal or done nothing actually can make the same freaking ad. And he might have the same ad cost and whatever, and he can just lie because he's a brand new business.
And I don't want anybody to ever think that you just go out and buy an investment property or properties and think it's just, you're going to have all this cash flow and you're going to be rich in a couple years. And that's really not it. Brace yourself for a wild ride into the unexpected. This ain't your typical success show. I'm here talking to real folks who've been through it all, skipping the fancy business talk for authentic stories. We're diving into childhood dreams, teenage escapades, and everything in between. No scripts, just the stories that truly mold success. Each episode takes you on a journey through those breakthrough moments that paved their way. No fluff, just genuine stories. So whether you're chasing dreams or just love a good story, buckle up for wisdom, laughs, and the unexpected. This is the Breakthrough Podcast, where success is a journey, not just some fancy destination. Don't miss out. Hit the subscribe button now and join our Breakthrough crew. I got some incredible stories to share, and you won't want to miss a single one. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Breakthrough with Stephen Husted. I've got a real estate legend on the episode today, Antoine Martel. He's a real estate investor, entrepreneur, and a guy who's done over 650 deals across multiple markets. Yes, you've heard that right. We cover it all, how he started investing in the Midwest, the wild tenant stories, yes, human waste on the walls level wild, how he scaled up, raised capital, and grew his business. Plus, we get into his move to Miami, how he's tackling today's market, and what big things he's got planned next. This episode is packed with insights, stories, and real talk about what it takes to build and scale in real estate. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned. All right. How's it going, buddy?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I appreciate you accepting my offer to come on the podcast.
Of course.
I was going through my Instagram and going, okay, who do I want to get on the podcast this year? I'm like scrolling through and I saw your name. I'm like, I'm going to just throw something out there. Let's see what he says.
And that's how it works. Sometimes you get people on a good day, you know?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know. It's a good shot. But what's interesting is I've been following you since like the COVID days.
Wow.
Like when shit was crazy.
Yeah.
And I was just watching you kind of just take off and watching you go through your journey of things. And I do remember one story. I think it was, you were talking about your first rental property after your tenants moved out and there was, you went back into it. It was walls had shit everywhere.
Yep.
Was
Shit
that was
over the
you,
walls.
right?
Yeah, that was me. Yep. Yep. It was, I mean, and that only happened one time, and I think it was on like the first or second or third deal where that had happened. That was in Memphis, Tennessee. And I remember being like, God, this is what real estate's all about, huh? 650 deals later, it never happened again. So that's kind of nice. So there was different stories that happened with just like super messy tenants or whatever, but never them spreading their human waste on the walls, just like that second deal, third deal. So
I was like, okay, cool. This guy's actually telling it like it is. There was, especially back then, it was wild. I just remember seeing so many different people. Like I remember saw this lady that bought an Airbnb or property, rehabbed it in Memphis and turned it into Airbnb. And then like 2 weeks later, she had a course and she was just crushing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's crazy. I know some people like that now. Yeah.
Yeah. At first I remember just going, well, when should you be able to make a course?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because she bought a property. It was a fixer-upper. She rehabbed it. She did a good job, and she got it on the market. So she went through all these steps. So she's further ahead than most people that have never done it. But if you look in the big scheme of things, when from other investors, like, God, you're still a rookie.
Yeah.
But hey, kudos to her. She went out there and actually created the course. And
I started my own, I waited 8 years and 650 flips later to like start some sort of education, which I started a couple years ago. And I mean, the space has just gotten more and more and more and more and more crowded because of like what you said. Like, then somebody flips one house and they're like, I'll show you how to flip your first house or, get your money back. And it's like, you've done it one time and, they can undercut me. And then to the average consumer, it's kind of like, I say I've done 650. They say they've done a few, but he's, charging $2,000. I charge 20 grand. And so it's like, there's so many, it seems like every creator now like has kind of pivoted towards that educational space, which, it's just such a crowded space, way more than it used to be. Like pre-COVID, it was not like that. There was a couple of big guys that had some courses and stuff like that, but I mean, now it just seems like what you just said. You flip one house, I don't know, and so much in the real estate kind of space too. It's kind of weird. I live in Miami, and a lot of people I know here like invest in the stock market or do options trading or whatever. There's still a lot of those kind of options trading courses and stuff, but it seems like it's not as many as the real estate guys, like guys and girls that start a course and start some sort of educational component to their business. So
I held back for a long time because I would see comments everywhere, even your stuff too. I mean, funny enough, I think you and Thatch, I'm always kind of going into the comment section and trying to make people think, especially the ones that just really don't understand the dynamic. You're really not going to get a full topic in discussion in a 1-minute video.
I know.
All.
Oh my
and
God.
so you take things out of context and, you can spin that 1-minute video into a million different things.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, I remember when you were posting about buying properties out in Detroit and you had one deal in Harper Woods. I've had properties in Harper Woods. So I know exactly when you're doing your numbers, I know if it's on or off. And it's just funny to see people come in the comment section. And then I would say something like, hey, I wouldn't be worrying about his numbers. I would be worrying about making sure your property management, your tenant, and your shit doesn't get stolen out of the property. And that's another video in itself. That is somewhere where someone like you or me, we can give them that backstory later on, whether that's like a mentorship or whatever. We can go dive into, and you can ask that question. What is all the crazy shit you've gone through? And those crazy things will help others, not go through that. I mean, they'll go through their own. But I think that's where the experience part comes in. Wouldn't you agree? Like, I think people that have a bunch of properties, gone through a lot of things, lost money, are the ones that should be teaching. For the most part.
I agree. It's so hard to stand out now. I mean, it's hard, and you're seeing it like, we run a ton of ads for our education business too, and it's just, it's hard to stand out from the other guy. You can't tell from an ad. The ad says the same thing. We'll help you invest in real estate. A guy who's done one deal or done nothing actually can make the same freaking ad, and he might have the same ad cost and whatever, and he can just lie because he's a brand new business. And then, so I don't know, he has less at risk and less at stake. The content thing is funny because I'll post stuff like, I flipped this house and made 20 grand. And then like people are like, your margin's not big enough. You're never going to make money with that. And I'm like, okay. Or they're like, you forgot the realtor commission on the back end. And I'm like, okay, well, I sold it as a for sale by owner. So how about that? It's like so many like minute details where you said like, if I made a tweet post about the numbers of my deal, it wouldn't fit in a tweet, buddy. Like it would be a carousel of every single line item that happened with that deal. I'm trying to make it short and concise and sweet so that like the average person can understand what's going on. So it's a very cutthroat place to be, and Thatch's content is great as well, but I bet he gets destroyed in the comment section
all the time.
Comment section too, like, I would never buy a house in Seattle, and I would never, I would write those things too, but it's like, hey, but you figured it out, it works for you, you were able to burr the properties or do new construction. Like, hell, props to you for like figuring that out. So I would never do it, but like, I'm not going to go comment on someone's stuff that's like, you're stupid for investing in Washington. It's like, hey, he lives there. He has good deal flow. He has like a process, and it works for him. So
yeah, and so it is a different story that if you put out a video and I'm commenting to you, and we're having like a dialogue, like maybe it's just something that I experienced, so I'm just working off your experience. That's a different story. But when it's just when they come from, and I laugh. I did one on Thatch recently, and they were just blasting him like, oh, he's trying to, get them to buy his courses. And it
Join
was
the
about
course.
interest rates. And I jumped in. I go, well, to be really honest, I've watched, hundreds of videos of Thatch's, and now I invest in Seattle and have a full team, and I'm doing exactly what he taught me from videos. Now,
Love it.
in my experience, on the other hand, I can take videos from you or people that are really doing it, and I really can put those to work, because I'm not going to sit here and play this game of doubting it. I mean, because I think you can find the ones that you can doubt. You can pick those ones out. They're kind of falling off at this point too.
Yep, exactly.
You can read through the bullshit.
Yeah, and then also too, like what I always do to stress test it is I'll go look at like the big boys. Like I'll go look at like where is the hedge funds buying? Where is BlackRock buying? What is their margin per deal? We just did the last couple of weeks. We've done a ton of research on one of the big hedge funds that's bought 10,000 doors in the last 7 years in the Midwest. And like, it's funny because we got like a pro forma of kind of like what their model is. And we recreated the model, and it was like exactly what our numbers had. Like the last 1,000 deals that us and our clients have done, it was like exactly the kind of numbers, exactly the same margin, exactly the same expense ratio, like to a T. And I was like, wow, I could have just like not flipped these myself and raised a fund and done this exact same thing just with like a different capital partner, and really could have scaled this up. And that's how I started investing in the Midwest too. I was looking at where were like the biggest home flippers in America, where were they doing deals, where was the most cash flow in America, where could you get the biggest bang for your buck, where were the biggest turnkey rental property providers in America. And that was like everything was Midwest. And this was in 2015, so 10 years ago. And then I was like, hey, if they can buy 100 houses a month, I bet I can buy one. It was kind of like that theory, and it's worked for me so far. So now like I'm looking into the fund thing, and it's kind of interesting. I'm doing the same thing I did 10 years ago, is like, who's the big boy, who's the biggest guy in this space? And in Seattle or in Washington, who's the biggest developer or real estate owner? What do they do? And I guarantee you it's probably like ground up construction of multifamily or something like that. And is there a way for me as a little guy to get into that? Is that possible with my resources, etc.? So yeah, that's kind of how I do it.
Yeah, and it's especially if you're somebody who's likes to evolve. It is you start to see things start playing out, and like I'm now mentoring people to buy properties, that are first time investors, but I didn't just jump right into it. It happened very organically. I had more partnerships that I would be a part of. And then sometimes I just like, I don't know if I want another partnership. So, hey, I'll just mentor you, and you'll get to keep the property, put you on retainer for 6 months, help you to identify a market, walk you through, point A to B.
Nice.
And that's worked out good. But what held me back was I was always like, don't want to be called the guru. And so I don't want to go out there and put that ad out on Instagram. And then I started having, the people that have helped, they're like, dude, you're doing people a disservice. Like, what do you mean? Like, shut up. Like, and what do you care what? But it took a while to get that point where you kind of just don't give a shit what people think. As long as you know what you're about, at the end of the day, you're helping people. It's like any other business, but it's a business that can be debated in a lot of different ways from a lot of different people.
Yeah, no, you're going to get hate no matter what, if you're not
no
getting
matter what
hate,
you're in, actually.
Yeah. Like, you're going to get hate no matter what. You're getting a lot of fun talk today because I've been looking into these funds for the last week. But, like, I was looking at some of the biggest funds ever. They own 10,000 houses. They're very, like, pro Section 8, pro helping the blue-collar worker find a clean, safe, and affordable. Like, very, very good on, like, me and you would look at that and be like, wow, they're, like, really converting these neighborhoods, taking dilapidated buildings. You know how much hate? They have, like, Facebook groups around, like, this fund. We're doing a class action lawsuit because they didn't replace this toilet and didn't do this thing. They're getting all these hate from the tenants because they're in property management, and every property manager has hate from everywhere. And then also probably all the gentrification people, like, you're gentrifying the neighborhoods and you're increasing the home prices and all this kind of stuff. It's like, the houses were not livable anyways.
They're destroyed.
What do you mean? What, you wanted to just sit there and rot and then kids to play around with them and get hurt in the vacant houses? Because that's what happens on the contrary. So no matter which way you go, you're going to get hate. But especially if you have a public-facing brand, which is a decision of me and you as the entrepreneur to, do we want to be public-facing or have something smaller and more organic? obviously you're going to get less hate if you don't market yourself and don't do something public, if it's more private. So
somebody I've been listening to a lot lately, and of course this is why I have her in Instagram so much, is Cody Sanchez.
Yeah.
And she has come so far in just understanding how to just speak her mind, whether you like it or not. She's got her own take on things, and she's willing to just put it out there. But she's built a pretty big audience, so she can kind of really get deep in things, you know, and reach the ones she need to, and then watch the ones that, you know, get. I think she did one about working from home yesterday. The people are just freaking out on her. Like, I have to disagree. She's like, that's cool. You know, like, this is what I believe in. And I think I'm starting to come to that point too now, where it's like the one thing people can't take away from each other is experiences. You know, the things we've gone through of what we've gone through, you know, like you had that story about coming into your rental property, having shit on the walls. No one's debating you. Okay. And you had to do X, Y, and Z to get it ready and get back on the, you know, and you started going through it. So what did you learn? You know, that things are going to happen. You're going to work through it and you're going to move on, just like anything else in life.
Yep, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, and I think that was something I learned from Hormozy too, was that like no one can take away from, if you make content about a story or like your journey, there's nothing anybody can take. That's why like the hate that he gets is very limited, because it's like very much, well, first of all, he puts in a lot of work to like really think through every single little thing, which I definitely don't do content wise. But it's like a story. Like everything is like a case study or an experience or a story, which then you can't say like, no, that's not true, or that's not how it works. It's like, this is what happened. Like nobody can debate your story. So it's like, I met with Steven and we did a podcast together on this day. It's like, no one can say otherwise. Right. So
that was a good point. That is absolutely true. The way he frames things.
Yeah.
If anything, people are like spot on. Like they just, you know,
exactly. That's why 99% of the comments are like, "Oh my God, you're amazing. You're that." Versus like if you say Cody Sanchez, like if she says something like, "I believe that," you know, if it's a belief, now people can attack your beliefs, but they can't attack your stories. So like instead of saying a belief of the, I believe that everyone should work in an office, it's going to improve productivity. Hormozy would say, we took this company from virtual to in person and increased, you know,
that is a perfect frame right there.
Exactly.
That's so true.
So that's kind of how I've taken my content as well. So like a lot of my YouTube videos used to be like, this is how running numbers on your properties, or this is how to do this, or how to do this. Now it's like, I bought a rental property and here's the numbers. I bought a multifamily property and flipped it and made this much money. It's like very much case study driven, and people get the point, but they can't even debate you anymore. And it puts your brand on a pedestal because now you're just talking about case studies as well, instead of like shouting beliefs off. So
that's
for you even too, like the content that you do make, just make it around like shit that happened.
Yeah. Man, that's perfect. Cause that was the big goal for this year, to kind of get back into, you know, I have a weird thing. So I'm a real estate investor, but also a realtor in Silicon Valley. So the first couple years of content was like bouncing between the two. And then I realized I'm more of an investor, you know, like that's more where I'm passionate about. So I'm kind of veering towards that now. So I want to create the YouTube channel more based on that, what I'm doing out in Seattle and what am I doing on my projects, and kind of gearing it towards that. But it was this journey, you know, because you know how content is. You start doing it one way, you look back what you did and you go, wow, that's hilarious. I was doing that type of content. But it's also really cool. You just look back on that, like how far you've come too.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Because you
100%.
Dude, you were the OG in COVID. Like nobody was. Another scenario, when I reached out to you, I hit up Ace Elliott.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have his number, personal number. And we used to talk during COVID times. So I sent him a voice message. I didn't hear back. I'll probably reach out again. It probably went to his junk, but he's another guy. The two of you were the ones who, like, I went, okay, these two are legit. They're doing things right. And I remember another couple that I felt like were doing it wrong, but I watched them online because I was just watching them go through what they're going through. Yeah. And then they got busted. And then they went through a whole nother thing. And now they don't even live here. They live far away.
Oh, wow.
and they went on
Interesting.
the whole direction. But it was interesting to watch the red flags. I even went as far as trying to sign up for, I think they were selling turnkey properties. That's what they were doing. So I reached out to one of their sales rep and went through that rabbit hole just to kind of see what they did. I'm like, yeah, no,
Wow,
no.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was like when I first started, 2015. There was a couple like fraudsters who were doing turnkey rentals, and they would like sell you a house, but it was just dirt. And they like weren't even selling the asset they promised. They were like seller financing it. That's why the whole, I don't know, seller finance thing kind of scares me from that past experience as well. But yeah, that's interesting that you thought that just from purely the content side of things,
Yeah.
and you kind of saw that. I mean, there's so many ways to slay. You know, we've been involved in lawsuits over the last 10 years of people trying to do weird stuff to us. And so there's not a lot of protection in, and I can actually finally, this lawsuit that's been going on for 3 years, I can finally talk about it. So I'm excited about that. But somebody tried to go and forge our like make a new operating agreement saying they were the owner of our entity and tried to quit claim properties from our entities to their entity, because they just went to the title company and said, yeah, I'm the owner of this entity. Here's a quit claim deed. I want to send the property to do a quit claim to this other entity. Here's the operating agreement. And it was a fake operating agreement. And so we sued the guy. He luckily wasn't able to move the properties over. He wasn't able to quit claim them, but he did against somebody else. He was able to steal like 10 houses in Cleveland, Ohio. And she sued them. He tried to do it again to us. We sued him. So yeah, there's a lot of bad and there's like the system isn't built for scammers. It's built for like honest people that aren't going to scam it's not built for like all this protection. So like if you own shit under an entity, I can just make an operating agreement, go to the title company. As long as I know the entity, the address, and somewhere else to send the thing to, I can fake an operating agreement and go send the thing off to wherever I want to. So
Didn't David Green go through something like that?
did he? Did he?
Yeah.
Man.
Oh, he put out an episode. He was on Brian Pineda's show about 5 months ago, I would say. And he went through like a whole ordeal, like massive scenario. I mean, it was so massive, and he was so very transparent about the whole thing.
Wow.
But it had something to do with that, and just all kinds of issues with the cities on properties, and like he almost lost it all from what it sounded like. But it was a big story. Yeah, I made a video on this person that somehow gained title and got this piece of property, built a house on it, and it was on this guy that was living in the East Coast, like childhood home, like on the lot next to it. And one of the neighbors said, hey, you're building a house. And he's like, what do you mean? And he flies out there and shows up, and there's this brand new 2-story getting built. They just scammed him. It was so crazy. And the guy was just like, wait, you got to stop. And was suing the builder. And the builder bought it from this guy that, somehow acquired the deed and built on it. So, yeah, there's some wild stuff. We're getting sued on our property out in the Smokies, our cabin right now. And yeah, learning a lot from that one. Jinx.
This is going to be the anti-investing in real estate podcast. But yeah, I mean,
I talk about it.
Okay, good. All right.
You know what I mean? I think that it's important to tell it all.
Yeah.
Because, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
And I don't want anybody to ever think that you just go out and buy an investment property or properties and think it's just, you're going to have all this cash flow and you're going to be rich in a couple years. And that's really not it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I'll tell people on like when we have Martel Turnkey, like leads come in, and sometimes I'll have to take a call or two here and there. People be like, I want to buy turnkey rentals. Cool. How much money do you have? Like 30 grand. Okay, cool. What kind of returns do you want? I don't know. Just something super safe, passive. And I need to make this money. And I'm like, great. So you're not going to invest in real estate then, right? Like go put in a freaking 401k or put it into, you got to at least get a tax benefit there, but put it into something else that like a high interest savings account or paying 4%. Like take the 4%. And then once you're ready to take a risk and take a little bit of a gamble for a 8% return, then you can think about investing in real estate. Like it's just some people I think that it is very passive because, sometimes in content like me, guilty of it, making everything look so easy and butterflies and rainbows when it's like, I'm just telling you about the good stuff most of the time because it's funner to talk about than the, all the losses and all that kind of stuff. So, and also there's more wins than there are losses, but sometimes the losses can eat up a lot of your good profits, or just take a lot of your day is just drained away with stupid shit like that, the lawsuits or legal fees or lawyers and silly things like that. So
Yeah, the lawsuit, I won't talk about the lawsuit, but I'll just say it's interesting how it all came about. I had this guy calling me, and I just didn't answer the phone. I thought it was just a spam call, and finally I picked it up, and he's like, "Hey, you got a property here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what? Who are you?" And he's like, "Hey, man, this is gonna sound crazy, but just to let you know, I'm a real estate investor, just like you, and I have properties out in the Smoky Mountains, just like you, but I just got this letter from an attorney. It came to my house, but it's got your information, and somehow I just put it all together. And I just wanted to tell you they're looking for you." He's like, "But I can also tell you that your LLC works because they can't find you." I was just like, okay.
wow.
So he gave me the heads up that they were going to serve us. And he
Wow.
was in Sacramento.
Jeez.
They had our name, they had our LLC name, but it went to his address. He's like, "Dude, I don't know why." And he started asking me like, "Hey, did you buy this house over here? Or like, did we cross?" I'm like, no, I only got one over there.
Wow.
So,
Wild.
yeah. So within your business, what is your favorite thing to do? Because there's so many things within a business, because you can't like them all, but what is your favorite thing to do on a daily basis?
I think my favorite thing to do is more like operations side of things. So like there's obviously with the turnkey fix and flip business and flip system, the education business, there's a big sales and marketing kind of component. Operations would be like buying the houses, renovating them, renting them out, building the software or automations or CRM to do so, and then raising money side of things as well when it comes to like raising money for deals and stuff. I think for me, I'm very much in terms of like just helping the business scale and thinking about different ways that we can do to grow the business, and not really being in one certain function. I obviously have my strengths more in the sales and marketing and real estate side, but I've also raised a lot of money as well. But I really, really like the operational side of things. So like, what can I do to scale up this business? What can I do numbers wise? What do the numbers of the business look like? If we make this pivot here or change this here, cool. What are some ways that we can do that? So like kind of like operational optimization without hiring people, but just making small changes within the business to kind of grow it is kind of what I really, really enjoy. Because I'm a numbers guy at the end of the day, like very much a math person and very logical. So like if I can have something, if we're at 1.5x, how can I get it to 2.5x with this little tiny problem here or this? And then doing those things every single day. I mean, it doesn't even feel like work to me. It's more just like, cool, here's the problem. Let's see what we can do to optimize. And then it's going to be a people issue, problem, like a process issue, or like, and then we're going to do it internally, externally. So there's lots of different ways to solve it as well. So that's kind of what I enjoy the most. And I know I am a real estate guy, but I'm not like in love with real estate. I'm more of a business guy.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's
I love
totally
business,
okay.
but my vehicle has been real estate thus far.
And the system and processes part of it it's a big one. And it's also cool when you start to identify an issue and you're like, oh, okay. And when you do make that adjustment, how it all kind of starts to spread through the business. And you're like, oh, that's good. I got a question for you. This is more personal for me to you.
Yeah.
How have you dealt? One of my biggest issues I've had over the years is like banking and like not being able to put some things, we have VAs and we got all these people on our team doing different things, but banking has been one of the biggest things. Do you use something like LastPass or something that has your cards that people make the payments on your behalf, but then you and your partners or whoever takes care of like the real formal business banking kind of stuff? Is that how you do it?
Yeah. So credit cards, I will, if it's somebody that I trust, like an EA or other directors of the business, I'll just give them their own credit card with a spending limit. So they can go spend whatever, because credit card's easy. If they do something,
dispute.
Yeah, fraudulent, you can dispute. Okay, cash in a bank account, you want to get a bank account that allows a dual approval process. So that's how you can really save your ass. So that means like, and Chase, we used to be at First Republic. We'd moved all of the money to Chase now.
Same with
Because
me.
what?
I was at First Republic too.
Oh, you were?
Did you get into First Republic back when you lived in California?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think they got no, they got bought by Chase, right? Yeah. That's
Yep,
why we
they
had to
did.
move to Chase. Okay,
Yep.
okay. That's why. Okay. So now we're on Chase, and the reason we went to First Republic in the beginning was because it had a dual approval. So like if I had my EA put in a wire, then somebody else, either me or my co-founder, would have to approve the wire for it to be sent. And then we would just be like, hey, what the hell is this thing for? Blah, blah, blah. But that's how you can really scale, is just having like a, so like you and your partner or any partners you may have that can approve wires, and then everybody else, you can put in a request for a wire. It just doesn't mean it's going to get approved. So that's kind of how we do it. We also use LastPass for like social media accounts and all that kind of stuff too.
I'm glad you said this. I was like, oh God, am I doing this wrong? It takes so
No.
long to get to where it was. And you're
Yeah.
right. With First Republic, well, First Republic was just more personable on all out levels. When everything shipped over to Chase, I was like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh. We would do a wire, and then, 2-3 days would go by, and escrow would be calling, going, we haven't received your wire. I'm like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
So I look and Chase, like, oh, we thought it was fraud. I'm like, did you guys call? You guys gonna call me? Like, this is a business account. I had to go in there and finally tell them, like, look, there's 8 Chase accounts here.
Yeah.
You guys see what's going on. You cannot put these guardrails on us. If you're going to, please call me, do whatever you
Yeah.
got to do, blow me up, but you cannot stop my business. Like, it is a
Yeah.
business account. So
Exactly. Yeah, I think they were just inundated with all the first, I don't know how many billions of dollars were moved over, but it was probably just a nightmare for them. And they
yeah, that
probably
was a
put
wild thing. It was funny. It was one of those things where I'm like, I used to talk about it. Yeah, I'm never going to go to Chase or Wells Fargo. Like, it's all about First Republic. And then all of a sudden, here I
Yep.
am.
First Republic is done.
I'm in Chase now.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, that was a big one. So you
Yep.
grew up in San Mateo.
San Mateo, yep. And then I went to college at LMU in LA. Then I
Cool.
lived there for a while, and then now I moved to Miami 2022.
How you liking Miami?
I like it. It's
Yeah.
good. It's very young. There's a lot of growth and development happening here. Nobody has a job, so that's kind of interesting. They
Really?
all,
I hear the opposite on TikTok. It sounds like everybody is like either a crypto bro or doing something or an
yeah, that's what I
influencer.
mean. That's what I mean. Like they
Oh,
don't have.
yeah, I get you.
Yeah. They don't
You're
like
right, they're
nobody's a
not.
W-2. Nobody's W-2 here. It's
No.
like you either are OnlyFans, you are like you just moved here for a W-2 job because we have like Citadel moved their HQ here. Amazon just signed a lease right next to my house. So they're going to put employees in. So there's going to be some W-2 people moving in, but man, it's crazy. There's a lot of like real estate. When I moved down here, I posted on Instagram once and I had like 15 coffee meetings set up, like I was like, dude, let's meet up. I just moved here. Boom, 15 people. And I just like met 15 people in the first week of moving here. I was like, dude, I could not do this in San Francisco because everybody would, is just they would have met up with me for different reasons. But these were all entrepreneurs starting businesses, flipping houses locally or in the Midwest. They were wholesalers, title company, like a lot of real estate related stuff, obviously, because that's what my following is, but tons and tons of entrepreneurs. Obviously, we get to save the taxes. And then, the weather, I don't mind at all. I love being outside, and it's nice when you go out at, 6 in the morning and it's already 75 degrees and it's perfect. The sun's coming up and it's already nice weather out. So very, very like healthy and active lifestyle due to that fact that you can go out any time of day and it's kind of like nice weather out.
So do you stay connected with those people?
I do.
Some of
them.
Yeah.
Some of them, people come and go too. Like we'll, move to another city, then move. We just had like one of those guys just moved back to Miami. He's been traveling around kind of the world and just working remote for the last 2 years. So yeah, I do stay connected with them. And some of them, like I even did a podcast with them in 2017 and then I moved here and they're like, you moved? I did too. And it's like kind of having those. And he's one of my best friends down here as well. Just, very small world. And it seems like a lot of those kinds of folks have moved down here the last couple of years.
Are you in a condo high rise?
Yep.
Yeah. So where are you at exactly?
I live in Midtown. So it's kind of next to Wynwood, which is kind of like our arts district. And then it's not really in like the downtown area or Brickell, which is like a lot of the hotels and stuff and
Yeah.
tourists. So Midtown, we have Target, Starbucks, and then like local restaurants, but not, there's not as many tourists around here. So It's nice. It's very, very walkable, which, where are you you're in the Bay Area, right?
San Jose.
San Jose. Okay, cool. So yeah, like in San Mateo, Foster City, where I grew up, there was like, wasn't really walkable. I mean, you could walk like 2 miles to like go to eat something, but it was very residential suburbia versus
Definitely.
here. It's like, you can drive 10 minutes in any direction and you're going to be, that's the extent of Miami, the city, and very walkable. So, I drive my car maybe like once per week versus in LA, I was driving it, every hour. And then in San Mateo, I mean, you would have to drive anywhere to get anywhere to do anything. And it was, a 30 or 40-minute drive if you want to go to San Jose or up to San Francisco or Half Moon Bay or, et cetera. So
Yeah, definitely a driving spot. And at least where you're at, you're a little bit out of the thick of things because it can get wild there. It can get wild there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I haven't experienced that at all. I haven't gone to one nightclub, haven't done
Really?
one outing at all. Yeah, and I've been here for 3 years.
The only place you have to go if you're going to go down and if somebody comes into town and they're like, I like techno, I like house music, you're just taking in the space, dude, and that's it.
Yep.
That's all you got to do. That's the place. Yeah.
Hell, I've been invited. I just haven't. It's just the people here are psychotic. I mean, they'll go like at 3 a.m. is like the start time, or 5 a.m. is like, this DJ's performing at 5 in the morning. We're going to sleep at 10, wake up at 4, start drinking, go at 5. I'm like, okay, well, you have a great birthday. I'll get you a gift, and let's hang out at 8 o'clock the night before, please. So,
yeah. I used to DJ, and so I would
go
down to the Winter Music Conference.
Yeah,
it was always wild. Yeah, space is very unique. It's definitely somewhere where you'd want to go to experience once. Definitely a cool spot.
Yeah.
But pick the right DJ and go at 6.
I'll go early. Yeah, exactly.
Go at
6 p.m. or 6 a.m.
6 a.m. Who knows? Hey, if you're there's all kinds of different festivals and things out there, and the music conference. So that sometimes you can go at 6 in the evening and
that would be nice. I would like that. Yeah, that would be cool to go to experience it. Have some dinner there. I heard they like serve food and stuff because it's 24 hours. So
it's just insane. The fact that people are going. Yeah, and back in the days that was pretty normal. Now I laugh. Now I just watch it on Instagram. I'm like, this is what's going on, right? And sometimes I'll post their videos from space, and it's like Tuesday at like 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Here's what's going on in Miami. And people are like, wait, what? This is right now? I'm like, yeah, this is right now. So they start laughing. So it sounds like the fun is kind of on your brain. Is there anything else because you've progressed in a lot. You've done a lot of different things I've noticed over the years.
Yeah. Part of that thing that I meant, what you asked, what do I like doing the most, is like growing operationally, setting up systems and stuff like that. Most of that is, $0 to $1 million a month, right? Like after $1 million a month, there's obviously like more systems that come together, but really like setting up that base foundation and getting that first sale or first $100,000 month, $1 million month is very, very exciting. And then also scaling past that also just has a ton of complexities. And sometimes you realize that what I've learned is sometimes you realize you're not in the right boat. For example, like the turnkey fix and flip business was great until you do 50 deals in a single month, and then it breaks. The education business is great until you sign up 100 people in a single month, and then you have all this other stuff that breaks, and then you're like, damn, can I really scale this to 500 users per month, 500 new users? Well, I would have to change the pricing. I would have to change what we're giving people on the back end. But what we have has worked so well. So like our clients have a 97% success rate of like getting into a deal and getting into a profitable deal, which is insane for like a coaching and education business. But it's because we connect them to the team on the ground. So then it's like, okay, our constraint is the team on the ground. We've signed up like 50 or 100 people in a single month, and they were still fine. But if we do that consecutively, like, can we really double or triple this business while maintaining the same success rate? And then you as a business owner have to choose, well, do you care about the success rate? Do you care about making more? Like, you have so many different things to compare. And then it's like, I can't really scale this versus some of the other content creators or real estate courses out there, which is just a course, which is infinitely scalable because it's just a course. It's a bunch of videos and a chat community and weekly live training calls. That's infinitely scalable. The problem with that is that your success rate is going to go down from 90+% down to 10%, 20%. And so you have like 80% of your pool of users being frustrated and pissed off and saying it's not working, but it's really due to their own effort. But yeah,
because you can learn as much as you want online, but at some point you have to actually put in the work and do it. And that's the part where things start to come, because there's a lot of things that can be out of your control. I mean, the fact that you're scaling at this level, and I literally just brought on a new mentee, and I talked to my assistant. I'm going, what happens when we finally do a webinar and we launch and I'm going to have 50 people? What if 100 people show up and I got 30 new? Like, how am I structuring my day?
Yeah.
Because I have a very small, tight group of partners. And I've liked it that way because we're all on the same mission. You know, most of them are all in W-2 and tech. So they work the 95. I'm the brains behind everything, and I just run the show. Yeah. Right. But we're on the same mission.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what happens if you get somebody in there that's a bad apple. Like, I'm concerned about that. Or I put time into some of the people that I've mentored. Like, how would I do it if I had more and I got all these other? So, you know what I mean? Like, you're talking to me right now. I'm going, fuck, I don't need. Like, so I'm thinking in my head, so how many people did he have on his team? And how did he break? This is where your skill set definitely helps, because you can go, okay. And I'm sure you put it in play thinking everything doesn't work out. And then you start to see the issues. Then you're trying to fix those issues, right?
You can't foresee this shit. That's the other problem. It's
Zero.
because you only think 7 days ahead. And then after you solve those functional problems, and in 7 days, you're going to have other shit that's going to pop up. So like, it's a constant game of whack-a-mole until you realize, it's a constant game of whack-a-mole. And then you realize too, like, okay, this is the boat that I'm in. And I think there was like a famous saying, I don't know who said it, but it was like, sometimes it's not like, you can be the hardest working guy ever, the smartest guy ever. Sometimes your boat is just not big enough. And like, you can go all day, like me right now, I can work for the next 40 years of my life, running Flip System, getting clients in, and playing whack-a-mole with that. And like, is it still going to get to, you know, let's say $1 billion status or $1 billion, or make me a billionaire, right? If that was like the end goal. The answer is no. And so then it's like, okay, if that is the end goal that I do have of having this, like, of a billionaire status, let's say, this boat is not big enough to help me get there. But that took me 3 years to figure out that that is not the right boat to get, you know, and then you're like, fuck, that was a waste of, obviously not a waste of time, but like, it takes time to figure out, like, damn, this boat is not big enough. And that's why the fund thing has been on my mind. Because, I mean, who's the biggest people in the world right now buying the most amount of real estate in the entire country? It's Invitation Homes, it's BlackRock, it's Blackstone, all of these big boys that own. Invitation Homes, I just looked yesterday, has, you know, 100,000 single family houses that they own.
And how many people do you think they have on that team working for those investors?
For Invitation Homes, for example?
Yeah, or BlackRock. Like, how many people do you think are part of that?
So here's the cool thing, is that Invitation Homes is a public REIT. So we can go look up, like, literally where they're buying houses, where the inventory is, their average purchase price, average renovation cost, because they're a public REIT. So they're on the stock market. You and I can go and invest in them today. They have to distribute as a public REIT 90% of their profits. But it's like a model that me and you can go find online, download it, and be like, cool. And here's how to do it at a smaller scale, to start with a team of 10 people. And it is something that could scale into, for example, if I go start a fund right now, that's a $10 million fund, then I can do $100 million. And then if I want to open it up and put it on the stock market, I could put it on the stock market and raise money from the, you know, average American and have $100 billion of assets under management and stuff like that. Like, that boat is infinitely big. It's like the biggest boat on planet Earth. The problem is, to get into that game is very, very tough and challenging to raise money from private equity investors and all that. So versus the education space, where is exactly what you just said earlier, anybody can make a course. So now your competition, and that's kind of like the downside of the education space, is that there's constantly going to be new competition, constantly going to be people saying stuff on their ads that's not compliant, that they're not allowed to say, but they're too small to know that until they get slapped. there's pros and cons to everything. But for me, it's always been like leveling up and finding the bigger boat that I can sit in, where like I have more leverage with my effort and time. Because education business also, like you just mentioned, if you need to do one-on-ones and weekly group coaching calls and all this kind of stuff, there's a ton of operational drag. Versus I have a software right now that can find 200 deals per month with zero operational drag. Okay, cool. So if I just had money and just click this button to buy these houses, how much operational, that would be one person can buy 200 houses a month versus 50 people showing 200 customers how to do the same thing, but we make 10 times the amount of money. So that's kind of how my brain works.
Yeah, and it's cool. And if this was all easy and we could figure it out in a year of working something that we did over and over, we wouldn't be doing it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Like when you were bringing up what you were just saying, like I'm down here, I'm in this, starting that journey, finally going, okay, somebody's going to say I'm a guru when I do this. Someone's going to talk shit, get past that. You've already helped people. Stop being a little baby. And, then I'm hearing about how you get on the ground. How do you build out? How hard was it in Detroit? Because Detroit is a goddamn wild, wild west out there. Like that place.
Yeah, that's why I love it.
Dude, it was. I had the craziest stories out there, and I love them because I tell them, and people freak out. But I go, well, when I first got investing out in the Midwest, I started in Detroit and Kansas City. Those were the two markets, and I went through so much in Detroit. Like everything you could possibly happened. But I almost planned it that way. Like, okay, I'm going to buy this $37,000 house in East Detroit, kind of close to Harper Woods. Okay. I knew it was by a Home Depot and Kmart. I'm like, okay, there's jobs. There's a hospital. It's a 3-1 brick. All right, cool. It's got a basement. Looks pretty good. Yeah, no problem. Get a tenant in. I'm like, okay, this is cash flowing pretty good. She moves out and shit goes crazy. Contractor starts doing rehab. Says, hey, I want my brother to move in. He's a good guy. He'll keep it up. He moves in. He doesn't pay. He turns into drugs. Then it's 3 squatters in a row. Then a guy calling me, threatening me that he's going to burn the house down. And, he's probably a gang member. Like I went through every damn thing. It started taking away so much of my day. I was focused on it. Like, why am I focusing on this? Like, thank God the mortgage is like $350 on this house. Yeah. Like it was crazy. So I just would let it go. And finally, I was on the Detroit Facebook group, and I saw this guy in there going, hey, I buy houses that have squatters, evictions, you name it, I take it on. I'm like, boom, I DM him. I'm all, dude, I got one for you. I go, I'm divesting out of Detroit. I don't want to be in this market anymore. And yeah, he bought it, no agents. And he would keep me, he's like, yeah, got her out. She's out now. And hey, I fixed it up. Oh, this was an issue. Didn't know about this. Got this going. And like the water bill, like I kept getting water bills. You know what I mean? Like the water it goes in the owner's name. I was like, yeah. Oh my gosh, the water, like just getting sucked dry, or them tapping into electrical. It's just crazy.
Wow.
They're savages.
Yeah.
So insane out there.
For us, it hasn't been that bad. Memphis was worse. Memphis for me was like one of the scariest places that I've been to, more than Detroit. Detroit, I actually felt safe. I don't know if you ever went and visited, but like driving around, visiting, like downtown Detroit is like Chicago-esque to me. And has a ton of, there's not as many people, but there's a ton of potential to it. And, this is obviously post 2008 when they went through all their bankruptcy and all that kind of stuff. So this is just in the last couple of years. Detroit has really taken off. Memphis has gotten really, really expensive, but all my like bad horror stories are from investing in Memphis, Tennessee, like where we had a deal burn down, where we had the tenants do crazy shit to the property is like all Memphis.
Memphis.
And those areas were really, really scary for me to just drive around versus Detroit. And I would drive around with like a cameraman and shit like that, like it wasn't like
you're
$5,000 camera.
Content.
Yeah, exactly. And in Memphis, it was like, why are you filming on our street? People would come out to the road and shit like that. That didn't happen to me in any other market. So I think it all comes down to the team you have on the ground. And also too, like I never converse directly with the tenants. I never converse directly with the construction crews. So like that has kept me out of a lot of bullshit because you can get sucked into one house can just take like 20 hours of your time in over a couple week period just with bullshit that keeps coming up. And then it's just like, versus having somebody else kind of handle that, try to figure it out. You don't pay them extra to figure the thing out anyways. Like property management, if you have an eviction or somebody's not paying, they don't get paid until they figure it out. So they're not like making money. Like, so they have to figure it out, quote unquote, for free until you get the tenant out and all that kind of stuff. So versus your time, which is, worth $1,000 an hour, $2,000 an hour. It's like, that's why some people are like, I don't want to use property management. I'm like, okay, don't.
Mm-hmm.
Call me in 6 months when you need a property manager.
You can go down that route. You can take that route first.
Exactly.
Will be part of your story down the road to tell.
Yeah. I've stopped convincing people to do it my way. I can tell you my way if you want to hear it and you're going to follow it. But hell, if you read an article that says you can save 10% of your cost by managing your properties, do it. Like, let's chat in 3 months. So
yeah, we have, Airbnbs and midterm rentals, and I would, because I wear glasses, my phone would be by my bed, and in the morning, I'd wake up and I just want to get up to see what time it is.
Yeah.
And if I would see this red scenario happening, I knew it was the Hospitable app. Dude, it turned into a full-fledged anxiety thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it really started to break me down. And I'm like, oh, I'm done with this. And another thing that I stopped doing is our portfolio out in Kansas City, that email address, I don't even look at it anymore. I just stopped. I stopped. And I stopped around May of last year. And I just told my assistant, look, if it's not a huge emergency, I don't even want to know. I don't even care. I don't even want to deal with it. That's what the property management's for. Call the contractors, call the handyman, whatever it takes. You do it. Just if it's big, let me know. But and that's really helped getting the Detroit property off my hands. That one. Yeah. I kept some in Harper Woods. That one, I'll keep it. It's fine. But yeah, just getting those things out, because you're right. It sucks out a lot of your time, and you should be spending your time on bigger and better things. But that takes time to kind of figure out. I think you have to go through
and to know your worth. Yeah,
especially know your worth.
That was the other problem of living on the West Coast, and I got to run here in a sec. But the other problem with the West Coast was the time change, dude. Like investing in the Midwest. Now I'm in Miami. I'm like, I'm ahead of all you guys now. So now I can wake up at 7 or 8, and that's like 0 emails, dude. And
right, that's cool.
Versus like when I used to wake up at 7 or 8, 150 emails, tenant break-in, blah, blah, blah. You would just you'd wake up, you'd have to go right to work, and it wouldn't be, you couldn't get cool shit done at the beginning. It would be all the stressful fires at the beginning. And then you just wake up and you're just immediately in kind of panic mode. Like, oh my God, I have to do this and then this. Moving to this side, this coast has been a big de-stressor in terms of just waking up to fires you have to put out and panic and all that kind of stuff. So
that's interesting. What would one piece of advice you'd give a new investor that wanted to get started?
The biggest challenge that I see is obviously analysis paralysis. But other than that, it's kind of looking at your resources, who you know, how much time you have and how much money you have, and just choosing something in the real estate world that fits within that bucket. So if you don't have any connections, but you have some money and you have some time, cool. Depending on how much money you have, that means you can buy a turnkey rental, do a fix and flip, do the burst strategy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I see a lot of people that have no money, no credit, and they have a ton of time, and they're like, I need real estate deals. And I'm like, for what? You have no money, no credit, and you have a ton of time. You should be finding real estate deals to wholesale them. Exactly. So I think that people need to, and I used to post a lot more about that as well, but we'll run some ads and be like, if you're a real estate investor and want to get into deals and whatever, and 80% of people clicking on it have no cash and no credit. And I'm like, why did you click on an ad about a real estate deal? That is, you can't do any. I'm like, why'd you book this? Call. You have no money, no credit. What? I give you a deal, then what? And so I think a lot of people have to look at what their resources are, also who you know as well. Even if you don't think you know anybody, I was raising money from kids in college and flipping houses in the Midwest, just from $5,000 here, $10,000 here, putting money together. So, who do you know in your network and how much money do they have? What could you guys do together? Or how could they help you? How could you help them is something that I also recommend looking at.
Good advice. Well, where could the audience find you?
Best place would be Instagram and YouTube. You can just search my name, Antoine Martel, on both of those.
I appreciate you accepting coming on to the podcast. I appreciate it. I'm glad that I was like, I don't know, will he do it? But I'm glad that you joined.
You got me on
I
a good
appreciate
day.
it, man.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah, all right. Well,
Great
thanks
to
a
meet
lot,
you, man.
You have a great day. We'll talk
Thank
another
you.
time.
Appreciate
Thanks.
it. See ya.
Thank you for tuning into our show, where we hope you found inspiration and gained valuable insights. If you enjoyed this conversation and want to stay updated on our latest episodes, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and share it with others who might benefit from it. We appreciate your support and look forward to bringing you more candid conversations and breakthrough moments in the future. Until next time, take care and keep exploring new ideas and strategies.